Hi guys, welcome. This is my first video where I will be reading books or chapters of books that are tailored towards self-care, self-improvement, and whatnot. I will insert an image here, hopefully, where I reached out to the publishers of this book, asking for permission to read this book, and they haven't gotten back to me, but I think that's okay. I think I read somewhere in the forum that they only reach out to you if they don't want you to read the book, if I'm not mistaken. But if that's not the case and the publishers of this book sees this, please just respond to my email and then I will take everything down. But without further ado, I will be reading Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents by Lindsay C. Gibson. So here we go. And some of the parts I will be skipping over. I just find them a little bit redundant or not that applicable. So here we go. Emotional loneliness comes from not having enough emotional intimacy with other people. It can start in childhood due to feeling emotionally unseen by self-preoccupied parents, or it can arise in adulthood when an emotional connection is lost. If it's been a lifelong feeling, it points to the likelihood of not being sufficiently emotionally responded to as a child. Growing up in a family with emotionally immature parents is a lonely experience. These parents may look and act perfectly normal, caring for the child's physical health and providing meals and safety. However, if they don't make a solid emotional connection with their child, the child will have a gaping hole where true security might have been. The loneliness of feeling unseen by others is a fundamental pain. What? Sorry. The loneliness of feeling unseen by others is as fundamental a pain as a physical injury, but it doesn't show on the outside. Emotional loneliness is a vague and private experience, not easy to see or describe. You might call it a feeling of emptiness or being alone in the world. Some people have called this feeling existential loneliness, but there's nothing existential about it. If you feel it, it came from your family. Children have no way of identifying a lack of emotional intimacy in their relationship with the parent. It isn't a concept that they have. And it's even less likely that they can understand that the parents are emotionally immature. All they have is a gut feeling of emptiness, which is how a child experiences loneliness. With a mature parent, the child's remedy for loneliness is simply to go to the parent for affectionate connection. But if your parent was scared of deep feelings, you might have been left with an uneasy sense of shame for needing comfort. When the children of emotionally immature parents grow up, the core emptiness remains, even if they have a superficially normal adult life. Their loneliness can continue into adulthood if they unwittingly choose relationships that can't give them enough emotional connection. They may go to school, work, marry, and raise children, but all the while, they'll still be haunted by the core sense of emotional isolation. So, emotional intimacy. Emotional intimacy involves knowing that you have someone you can tell anything to, someone to go to with all your feelings about anything and everything. You feel completely safe, opening up to the other person, whether in the form of words, through an exchange of looks, or by just being together quietly in a state of connection. Emotional intimacy is profoundly fulfilling, creating a sense of being seen for who you really are. It can only exist when the other person seeks to know you, not judge you. As children, the basis for our security is emotional connection with our caretakers. Emotionally engaged parents make children feel that they always have someone to go to. This kind of security requires genuine emotional interactions with parents. Parents who are emotionally mature engage in this level of emotional connection almost all the time. They've developed enough self-awareness to be comfortable with their own feelings, as well as those of other people. More importantly, they're emotionally attuned to their children, noticing their children's moods and welcoming their feelings with interest. A child feels safe connecting with such a parent, whether seeking comfort or showing enthusiasm. Mature parents make their children feel that they enjoy engaging with them and that it's fine to talk about emotional issues. These parents have a lively, balanced emotional life, and are usually consistent in their attentiveness and interest toward their children. They are emotionally dependable. Emotional loneliness. Parents who are emotionally immature, on the other hand, are so self-preoccupied that they don't notice their children's inner experiences. In addition, they discount feelings and they fear emotional intimacy. They're uncomfortable with their own emotional needs and therefore have no idea how to offer support at an emotional level. Some parents may even become nervous and angry if their children get upset, punishing them instead of comforting them. These reactions shut down children's instinctive urge to reach out, closing the door to emotional contact. If one or both of your parents weren't mature enough to give you emotional support, as a child you would have felt the effects of not having it, but you wouldn't necessarily have known what was wrong. You might have thought that feeling empty and alone was your own private, strange experience, something that made you different from other people. As a child, you had no way of knowing that this hollow feeling is a normal, universal response to lacking adequate human companionship. Emotional loneliness is a term that suggests its own cure, being on the receiving end of another person's sympathetic interest in what you're feeling. This type of loneliness isn't an odd or senseless feeling. It's the predictable result of growing up without sufficient empathy from others. To round out this description of emotional loneliness, the author briefed over a couple of examples, which I don't find too appropriate. So anyways, knowing the cause of your emotional loneliness is a first step towards finding more fulfilling relationships. How children cope with emotional loneliness. Emotional loneliness is so distressing that a child who experiences it will do whatever is necessary to make some kind of connection with the parent. These children may learn to put other people's needs first as a price of admission to a relationship. I felt that. Instead of expecting others to provide support or show interest in them, they may take on the role of helping others, convincing everyone that they have few emotional needs of their own. Unfortunately, this tends to create even more loneliness, since covering up your deepest needs prevents genuine connection with others. Lacking adequate parental support or connection, many emotionally deprived children are eager to leave childhood behind. They perceive that the best solution is to grow up quickly and become self-sufficient. These children become competent beyond their years, but lonely at their core. They often jump into adulthood prematurely, getting jobs as soon as they can, becoming sexually active, marrying early, or joining the service. It's as though they're saying, since I'm already taking care of myself, I might as well go ahead and get the benefits of growing up fast. They look forward to adulthood, believing it offers freedom and a chance to belong. Sadly, in the rush to leave home, they may end up marrying the wrong person, tolerating exploitation, or staying with a job that takes more than it gives. They often settle for emotional loneliness in their relationships because it feels normal to them, like their early home life. Why the past repeats itself. If the lack of emotional connection with emotionally immature parents is so painful, why do so many people end up similarly frustrating relationships in adulthood? We gravitate to situations we have had experience with because we know how to deal with them. As children, we don't recognize our parents' limitations because seeing our parents as immature or flawed is frightening. Unfortunately, by denying the painful truth about our parents, we aren't able to recognize similarly hurtful people in future relationships. Denial makes us repeat the same situation over and over because we never see it coming the next time. And then she goes on and shows another example. Feeling guilty for being unhappy. I have a special place in my heart for people like the girl in the example that I chose to skip over, who function so well that other people think they have no problems. In fact, their competence makes it hard for them to take their own pain seriously. I have it all, they're likely to say. I should be happy. Why do I feel so miserable? This is the classic confusion of a person whose physical needs were met in childhood while emotional needs remain unfulfilled. Let me repeat that again. This is the classic confusion of a person whose physical needs were met in childhood while emotional needs remained unfulfilled. People like this often feel guilty for complaining. Men and women alike will list the things that they have to be thankful for, as if their life were an addition problem whose positive sun means nothing can be wrong. But they can't shake the feeling of being fundamentally alone and lacking the level of emotional intimacy they crave in their closest relationships. By the time they come to see the author, Lindsay, who's also has a practice, so by the time they come and see her, some of them are either ready to leave their partner or are involved in an affair that gives them some of what they need. Others have avoided romantic relationships altogether, seeing emotional commitment as a trap they prefer to stay out of. Still, others have decided to stay in their relationship for their children and come to therapy for help in learning how to be less angry and resentful. Few of these people walk into her office with the thought that their lack of satisfying emotional intimacy started in childhood. They're usually mystified as to how they ended up in a life that doesn't make them happy. They struggle with feelings of selfishness for wanting something more out of life. Good relationships do take some effort and forbearance, but it shouldn't take work just to be noticed. Making an emotional connection ought to be the easy part. Emotional loneliness transcends genders. Although women still outnumber men in seeking psychotherapy, in some ways it's even more poignant for men to seek this therapy because our culture maintains that males have fewer emotional needs. Taking a look at the rates of suicide and violence reveals that this is not true. Men are more likely to become violent or succeed at suicide when they feel emotionally anguished. Men who lack emotional intimacy, a sense of belonging, or caring attention can feel as empty as anybody else, though they may resist showing it. Emotional connection is a basic human need, regardless of gender. Children who feel they cannot engage their parents emotionally often try to strengthen their connection by playing whatever roles they believe their parents want them to. Although this may win them some fleeting approval, it doesn't yield genuine emotional closeness. Emotional disconnected parents don't suddenly develop a capacity for empathy just because a child does something to please them. People who lacked emotional engagement in childhood, men and women alike, often can't believe that someone would want to have a relationship with them just because of who they are. They believe that if they want closeness, they must play a role that always puts the other person first. And then she goes on and shows an example. Feeling trapped in taking care of parents. I'm just going to read a few sentences from this paragraph. Typically, their relationship with their parents are so draining that they don't have the emotional energy to pursue romantic relationships, nor do they want to. Their experiences with their parents have taught them that relationships mean feeling abandoned and burdened at the same time. To these people, relationships feel like traps. They already have their hands full with a parent who acts like he or she owns them. Not trusting your instincts. Emotionally mature parents don't know how to validate a child's feelings and instincts. Without this validation, children learn to give in to what others seem so sure about. As adults, they may deny their instincts to the point where they acquiesce, to relationships they don't really want. They may then believe it's up to them to make the relationship work. They may rationalize why they have to try so hard in the relationship, as though it were normal to struggle daily to get along with your mate. While effort is needed to maintain communication and connection in a relationship, it shouldn't feel like constant, unrewarding work. The truth is, if both partners fit each other, understand each other's feelings, and are positive and supportive, relationships are primarily pleasurable, not arduous. It isn't asking too much to generally feel happy when you see your partner to look forward to time together. When people say you can't have everything, they're really saying they don't have what they need. As human beings, you can trust yourself to know when you're emotionally satisfied. You know when you've been given full measure. You aren't a bottomless pit of ceaseless demands. You can trust the inner prompts that tell you when something is missing. But if you've been trained to discount your feelings, you'll feel guilty for complaining if everything looks okay on the outside. If you have a place to live, a regular paycheck, enough food, and a partner or friends, Conventional wisdom says, how bad can it be? Many people can readily enumerate all the reasons why they should be satisfied and be shy about admitting that they aren't. They blame themselves for not having the right feelings. Lacking self-confidence due to parental rejection. When parents reject or emotionally neglect their children, these children often grow up to expect the same from other people. They lack confidence that others could be interested in them, instead of asking for what they want. Their low self-confidence makes them shy and conflicted about seeking attention. They're convinced that they would be bothering others if they tried to make their needs known. Unfortunately, by expecting past rejection to repeat itself, these children end up stifling themselves and promoting more emotional loneliness. In this situation, people create their own emotional loneliness by hanging back instead of interacting. As a therapist, her job is to help these people realize how their parents have damaged their self-confidence, while also encouraging them to tolerate the anxiety of trying something new. In order to connect more with others, in order to connect more with others, she goes on it and shows a few more examples of this situation, which I will again skip over. Childhood loneliness beneath adult success. Parental rejection doesn't always result in low self-confidence. Some intelligent, resilient people somehow manifest the confidence to pursue good careers and reach high levels of achievement. Many find emotionally mature partners, enjoy satisfying long-term relationships, and create close families of their own. But despite their emotional needs being met in current relationships, the lingering trauma of childhood loneliness may haunt them in other ways, through anxiety, depression, or bad dreams. Why it feels so bad to live without emotional connection. There's a reason why people have such a strong need for emotional connection with others. Throughout human evolution, being part of a group has always meant more safety and less stress. Our ancestors, who most disliked separation, were more likely to survive because they enjoyed the safe feeling of being close to others. Early humans who didn't mind isolation, on the other hand, may have been comfortable with more distance than was good for their survival. So, when you're longing for deep emotional connection, remind yourself that your painful feeling of aloneness is coming not just from your individual history, but also from a human genetic memory. Just like you, our distant ancestors had a strong need for emotional closeness. Your need for attention and connection is as old as the human race. You have prehistoric reasons for not liking to be lonely. And the summary. A lack of emotional intimacy creates emotional loneliness in both children and adults. Attentive and reliable emotional relationships are the basis of a child's sense of security. Unfortunately, emotionally immature parents are usually too uncomfortable with closeness to give their children the deep emotional connection they need. Parental neglect and rejection in childhood can adversely affect self-confidence in relationships in adulthood, as people repeat old frustrating patterns and then blame themselves for not being happy. Even adult success doesn't completely erase the effects of parental disconnection earlier in life. Understanding how your parents' emotional maturity has affected you is the best way to avoid repeating the past in your adult relationships. To that end, in the next chapters, we'll look at the hallmark characteristics of emotionally immature parents. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if this book is something that you, the viewers, are interested in me continue to read, or if you have any other suggestions, if you'd like me to go through the examples, maybe next time I can do my own take on it if you like. I'm open to suggestions. But yeah, thank you for watching and have a great day.